Right, time to have a look at a couple of graphic works now, and the first of these is a graphic novel, Just So Happens, by Fumio Obata, which is published by Jonathan Cape. It concerns a Japanese woman, Yumiko, who has made a life for herself in London, but she's called back to Japan by her brother when her father dies in a mountaineering accident. When she goes back to Japan, she obviously comes face to face with her Japanese heritage and the rituals that surround the death of a member of your family. Bring back into stark contrast the differences between her Japanese life and the life that she's made for herself in the UK. And I think, as will happen when somebody loses a parent, you're forced to sort of look back on your life and your relationship with that parent, with your other parent, and also looking forward in your life and what you're going to do with it now. And so for her, it's about making decisions about where she's going to spend her life and what she's going to do with it. It's a very subtle book, actually, which I really liked. I've read it now a couple of times because I had this sensation that there was probably a bit more underneath the surface of the first read, and indeed there is. And the artwork's really gentle too. It's some nice subtle drawing and some really lovely subtle colouring throughout as well. Some lovely watercolour work, and there's a particularly nice bit where she sees some No theatre being performed, and one of the characters in Japanese No theatre comes back throughout the novel. And there is something about the ritual of theatre, and as I said, the rituals surrounding death, which bring into stark contrast the differences between Japanese and English culture. As I say, a subtle and gentle and very careful look at death and grief and remorse and life. What more can I say? Now we move on to Feynman, which is a graphic biography of the physicist Richard Feynman. I was first introduced to him when I was a teenager because my dad got me the book Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, which is a collection of anecdotes from his life. And it was followed up by another book called What Do You Care What Other People Think? Both of those books are hilarious and brilliant and interesting and fascinating, and I would highly recommend them to anybody wanting to get to know a little bit about this crazy, crazy guy. He is a bona fide genius. But he was also a total kook, and so it's so much fun to read about his life and his ideas and how he even made some of the discoveries that he made in the field of quantum physics, which I don't understand today, and I certainly didn't understand when I read it first time as a teenager. There is even an attempt in this book to sort of illustrate his theory of quantum electrodynamics, which is the thing that won him the Nobel Prize, and I'm not sure I understand it yet, but it's very well done in this book. The rest of the book, it kind of provides a whistle-stop tour of his life, and of course that can only really provide you with a very sketchy look at his life, if you'll pardon the pun, which for me is just slightly unsatisfactory. I've read a couple of graphic biographies now, and I'm not sure it really works as a form because it can only really provide you with very, very little detail of somebody's life. It really is just a sketch of their life, and it only ever leaves you wanting to read more, which is fine. It's a good introduction, I suppose. And there is a suggestion of some further reading at the back of this book, which has got lots of books that you could look at if you wanted to know more. Personally, I would suggest that you read Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, as an introduction to his life, because it gets you straight in there, it's straight from the horse's mouth, and it is so, so entertaining to read, and I promise you'll probably want to read more about him after that. But anyway, that is Feynman, which is published by First Second Books in the US. Next, I promise you, it's Knausgaard, so tune in.